Okay. For one, let's make sure I'm using the right mic here, because that's an important thing. Okay, good. It's set to my ear force. And boom. Okay. Just make sure we don't disturb people. Alright, so welcome everybody. I know it's been a while. We've had some issues here between me starting a full-time teaching job for the rest of the school year and my computer repeatedly crashing. It's been difficult to get streams going. Whew, and I'm drinking a Rockstar, so I'm getting burpy. So we're painting up some more Vorbak, another 5 of them. If you'd like to see a comparison of what we're at so far. This was one of the first 5. This one of the second 5. So I'm doing a more reddish skin tone for these 5. I did purple and red. Just to differentiate the squads, make them all not quite look the same. Yeah. That'll be another couple other things we work on, depending on how long I go for and whether or not I finish these. Today, you'll also notice that I am short a webcam. The one that's usually right here is not on, because it turns out that is what has been crashing my my computer. So I'm down to one webcam for the foreseeable future, unless I get one that isn't a what's its face? Logitech. It has to be a non-Logitech webcam, because Logitech drivers, when you have 2 Logitech webcams, crash your computer. Exciting and very much not useful. So yeah, that's where that leaves us. So let's go ahead and get painting and enjoy ourselves here. As always, song request is on. It is SR exclamation mark SR, and then type in the artist and title, and it will add it to the song queue. Otherwise, we will be cruising to some Kevin MacLeod this afternoon, and generally just hanging out. So let's get down to business and defeat these Huns. Did they send me daughters when I asked for sons? So we're working on bone and parchment, which means, ooh, it's going moldy in there. I'm gonna have to clean that up in the very, very near future. So after this paint session, I'm gonna have to clean out my wet palette. So you can see the mold right in there. But for now, we'll be fine. Just gonna get my pale sand going. My goal, I would like to be able to finish these guys this weekend so I can get them to Rob. He's been very patient with me, and I feel bad that it's taken so long to complete his commission. mind the noises. Everything is okay. Interesting. So when we're done with this highlight, what we'll be doing is, I always missed that bit of parchment on the back of the here, on this leg. Is hitting everything with Seraphim Sepia, all the parchment and bone and what have yous. And then once that's dry, the parchment will get another highlight with pale sand, the bone with bone white and ivory. So that there's some distinction between the two. We'll go back in and get the flames on that at a later time, so we can do them in pale sand and then bratten them up. On the last 5 I did it in reds and yellows so that they look like more traditional fire. On these ones, when I do the flames, I think they're going to be blue-green, contrast against the flesh parts. I just keep missing these. There's 2 of them. Gonna be counting on the wash to dim this one back down. Make it look more parchmenty and less bone. I hope this is the only other piece of parchment I missed. So once I'm done with these guys, what you should see a whole lot of being painted up on the channel is going to be Guild Ball and Batman stuff. Spencer and I are hoping next month to be able to play and learn some BMG. And with that in mind, I got for my birthday. This, because my wife is amazing. So I'll be using that with Heatwave and Captain Cold. Apparently hearing what I was going to be painting later just drove someone away. So, or maybe it was the weird clown music. Who knows? Dinner already smells amazing. I zoomed in the camera because I noticed that you couldn't really see much of what I was doing. So I'm hoping by doing this, you get a better overall view of what I'm painting and how. I'm hoping it's not like super blurry or anything. Because even when I'm watching it on playback and stuff, I have a hard time telling. This music is ridiculous. Not necessarily in a bad way, but it's ridiculous. That's what happens when you just add Kevin MacLeod's entire, almost entire catalog to your playlist. So once again, if you think the music is as ridiculous as I do and you'd like to listen to something different, song request is on. The only reason I leave it with Kevin MacLeod is so that if no one shows up, my videos don't get flagged for copyright issues. Because all of his music is royalty free. Because he is a wonderful person. Right, one more guy, and then we move on to washes. I'm gonna wait for washes to dry. We might do some base work on a few things, including these guys. Might just have to go through this playlist at some point and edit out some of the music that doesn't really fit with the tone of the stuff that we paint. It's like, this is good, this is fine, but that last song's a little ridiculous. Same with the clown music. Yeah, the change in my work hours has affected the times at which I can start streaming. So where I used to start around 3-ish, that's pretty close to the time I usually get home now. Actually, that's earlier than I get home now. Because I'm done with my contracted hours at 2:45, but I don't usually leave until closer to 3. Unless it's like today where I have a brain fart and I leave it closer to 2:40, 2:30-ish. And don't realize that I've left early until I'm like halfway home. Okay, so let's do some Seraphim Sepia Shade on these guys. So you can expect to see in the very near future some unboxings from me, because like I said, my wife is awesome. Like, check this out. She got me both marker sets and starter set for Batman. And Spencer got me the same starter set for my birthday as well. So I'll be trading in that one to get some more variety. Maybe a Good Guys starter or something. Alright, we're just going to do a nice heavy wash with Seraphim Sepia over all of the bone and parchment. But not too heavy, we don't want it to pool too much. So where it pools excessively, I'm just going to pull it off and move it somewhere else. Like here. A little bit much there. Now the music sounds like I am narrating a 1950s era PSA. So you want to apply a wash, do you? Well, that's interesting, Timmy. Gotta make sure there's not too much liquid in your wash, or it's gonna pool. Oh no! It's pooled. What are you gonna do? That's right. Pull it away with a drier brush. What's the name of this track? Just so I can remember it if I ever want to make a video like that. This is Winner Winner by Kevin MacLeod. And moving on to the next one. Yeah, that looks so tasty. I swear, the best paints Games Workshop makes are technical paints. The others are good, but the technicals are best. They're amazeballs. Ooh, I have to rename this the Burp Stream. Whew. I love me a Rockstar, but they make me gassy. And so as you can see, we're applying this over the entire surface of all of the bone and parchment in order to shade it and tint it at the same time with this nice worn reddish brown. I mean, theoretically, I guess you could do Agrax if you wanted more of like a old bone kind of look, I guess. A much old or newer bone, I guess. Old bone would just be white because it would be picked clean. But I like it with the Seraphim. Not sure. Maybe it's the slightly yellowish tint it has that makes it better for this to me. But I am a fan. And I think I got this directly from Games Workshop. Is in one of their paint splatters in a White Dwarf a couple years ago. In fact, for these guys, I used a lot of Games Workshop recipes. I used Duncan's Word Bearers video. Took a screenshot of the paint list. I've been using those colors for just about everything. Because Rob wanted the red brighter than the Forge World Vorbak. So I figured I'd just stick with the regular Word Bearers colors instead of the darker red that the Vorbak usually have. And it's worked pretty well. And except for washes and shades and a glaze, the yellow glaze, which I own, I haven't used it for this. Nothing I've used is Games Workshop, except for technical paints. And it's worked pretty well. Some of the colors are difficult to find equivalents for. Finding a good substitute for Mephiston Red was not easy, but it turns out that red from Vallejo's Model Colors is a pretty close match, as is Angel Blood from Minidair. Who knew that the Angel Blood color was close to the color that Games Workshop uses for Blood Angels? Who'd have guessed? And I've been working to find suitable substitutes for another few Games Workshop colors. One of them I just finally found. I finally found a Vallejo equivalent to Eshin Gray. It's Panzer Ace's Dark Rubber. It took me forever to find anyone who had documented a color equivalent for Eshin Gray. Since I don't have it, I have no way to compare it. I was on the verge of just buying Eshin Gray and putting it in a dropper bottle, which I may still end up doing with Dark Reaper, if I can ever find a bottle of Dark Reaper. So if you have compared colors and can give me a good substitute for Dark Reaper, I would be very grateful. The DACA paint chart doesn't even have it listed as a color, much less have any substitutes for it. One more. This is probably the shade I've used more often than anything else. I use it on my Blood Angels a lot because it's not as dark as Agrax Earth shade, so it's a much more subtle shade to the red, and I love it. I believe it's part of Garfie's recipe, or is it Stolly? I think it's Garfie that does the Blood Angels on Tale of Painters. I used his or hers, or I'm not sure of the gender of the individual. I used their Blood Angel recipe for my Blood Angels. Modified, of course, because I am not as talented a painter as they are. And so I don't go into quite as much layering and detail as they do. But I'm pleased with it. It works well for me. Very suitable. I love my Blood Angels. They're just fun to look at. Okay. Boom. We got the wash part done. Now we gotta let it dry. Who wants to watch paint dry? Yeah, watching paint dry. So much fun. I'm sure everyone's excited by watching paint dry. Alright, while we're waiting for paint to dry, I am just going to take care of a few administrative things here. Like try and figure out why it says I have 2 notifications on YouTube. Especially when I don't know what they are. Back. Alright, they seem to be gone now. Interesting. I am not offline. Update the name of that video. Haha. Let's see. So the colors that they recommend: Mephiston Red, Nolan Oil, Abaddon Black, Evil Sun Scarlet, Fire Dragon Bright, Lead Belcher, Runefang Steel, Eshin Gray, Steel Legion Drab. And then Agrax Baneblade, Ceramite White, Waywatcher Green, Pallid Witch Flesh. The colors I had to convert over because I wanted to use them were Mephiston Red, which is Vallejo Model Color Red, Evil Sun Scarlet, which is Vallejo Model Color Vermilion, and Fire Dragon Red, which is Game Color Orange Fire or Model Color Light Orange. And that's what I'm using. I kind of want to watch that video now and see how they use Eshin Gray, just because I have it. I have a color that substitutes for it anyway. Alright, let's give me a moment. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean my palette real quick. So we're going to be right back. I'm going to take you with me to the bathroom to run water through my wet palette. That's a good question. Give me a minute, I'll come help. Oh, it tore. Dang it. Okay. Just gonna need new parchment paper. Alright, so as you heard, my parchment paper tore, which means that I need a new one, and I'm gonna flip this over. which looks, ew, looks like it's been done before. Yeah, it's all slimy. Might be time to just replace everything in my wet palette. I have some parchment paper in here somewhere. I lose things in my studio a lot. It's kind of annoying. Ah, there it is. Found it. Okay, let's go back to our live scene. Alright, I found my parchment paper. So we can figure out what's going on here. Ooh. Let's just take my scissors here. Yep. We'll go yay wide. Now normally I would run this under some hot water, but I don't have that available right this moment. I'm bringing Galvor back. Hey! I'm just gonna press it down onto the wet paper towel, and it's gonna roll itself up, so we're gonna flip it over and kind of rub the water into it, and then set it back down in the other direction, and that should sit pretty flat. And we don't want it to the point where it goes past the edges of the paper towel, because it's the water from the paper towel that's going to keep it flat and moistened. Sorry if that word bothers you, but get over it. It's a word. It's a perfectly benign word. Alright, we're just going to spread that around, get some of the bubbles out. There we go. We have a usable wet palette again. And let's go ahead and start in on the bone. So we're going to do some bone white. Because that should be dry by now. These washes dry pretty quick. We're just going to get a little bone white. Nice and wet on the palette. And I'm just going to brush that across the tops of the bony sections. Just the bony sections. We don't want it on the parchment at all. And in the process, we will of course find spots that I missed. So, exciting as that is. There's a lot of water soaking through, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It just means I gotta be careful not to have it overly wet, because it is of course acrylic paint. So if it's overly wet, it tends to run in places I don't want it. This isn't necessarily about being super exact with it either. You just... that's not good though. I don't like that. So we're just gonna... There we go. It was a little too wet. That sounds like a boss fight from a Game Boy game. I need to take some pictures of the other squad of Vorbak so I can put them up on the Instagram. I haven't put anything up there since I finished off Zardu Layak and his sword slaves. I don't really want to paint too close to the teeth on this claw because I don't want them to blend in. I will probably go in with some Nuln oil and put it in some of the close edges and stuff. Just because forge roll wise, the bones on a lot of these are black. Bony bone, bone, bone. Painting a bone. Lots and lots of bone and teeth. Hope the dental plan of chaos is good because these guys are growing teeth out of lots of places. Bony bone, bone, bone. Okay, I forgot to paint it, or wash those, put the wash on those spikes coming out of his chest. Whoopsie doodle. But okay, they're small. The shading wouldn't have done a whole lot on them anyway. Not that I regularly try to ignore small details, but that's one of the nice things about small details. If you miss them, miss a step on them, you can usually cover it up or fix it fairly simply. Boom! That's it for bone white. And we're just gonna do some ivory. Some real light ivory highlights. Let's see here. I'm just checking a YouTube playlist. Adding some stuff to my watch later, which I tend to like doing. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Doom, doom, ba-doom, doo. Why is Nightbot not showing up in my stuff? Weird. Bizarre. Okay, so we're gonna use my nicest brush here, which is my Army Painter detail brush. I love this thing. I take very good care of it, or at least best I know how, because it is an amazing brush. I will admit that some Army Painter brushes are not great. The synthetic ones don't last very long. The Regiment brush gets real fat, but the detail brush, not the insane detail brush is almost useless. There's no hair in it, but the regular detail brush is quite useful. I mean, it's a sable hair brush, so it's not synthetic. It has come in very handy for me for painting just about everything. I wouldn't use it for painting like large highlights or anything, but it's a good edge lining brush. It's a good small detail brush. I like it. For those that have not had any good experiences with Army Painter brushes, I recommend getting a detail brush and trying it out. Might change your mind some. Way better than any GW brush I've ever used. And probably significantly less expensive. For those in the know, is Adepticon this weekend or is it next weekend? I can't remember. I'm not going, so. But it might explain why there aren't as many people online if Adepticon is going on right now. Be careful where my fingers land. Don't want to rub off any ivory. There we go. I love it when a plan comes together. This is a Vorbak for Forge World for the 30k World Eaters. The Vorbak are the original Chaos Space Marine possessed. They are Space Marines who allowed themselves to become demon hosts. and they are quite detailed models. I've seen them before, and I've always thought they looked cool, and I really wanted to paint them. But there is a lot going on them. And this is the second batch of 5 that I've done for Rob, my buddy that I'm painting these for. And I was surprised by how much there is to paint on them. Also, welcome to the stream, Sergio. It is wonderful to have you here. Streaming is always more fun when you have folks in the chat. Ah, excellent. I find that's one of the wonderful things Twitch is good for, is to find a community of painters, so you can have like paint night without leaving the house, a painting party without leaving the house. What is it you're painting? Working on anything fun? Ah, cool. I haven't painted any Reaper stuff in quite a while. I've got a fairly large collection of unpainted Reaper figs at this point, actually. Not that I bought Bones or anything. I have some friends that bought into the Bones Kickstarters, and they have more minis than they know what to do with. But I've got some Warlord stuff, as well as some Pathfinder minis from a campaign that fizzled. So are you painting it just for fun, or painting it up to use as something? for a specific purpose, for D&D campaign or Kings of War or something. Or heck, even Warhammer Fantasy, the Ninth Age. Or Age of Sigmar Reaper minis don't work so well for anymore. Everything's a little too specific these days. Reaper bones aren't really from anything. They're just generic fantasy miniatures. Reaper's kind of the go-to for RPGers and Dungeons and Dragons type folks. And they make some good stuff that'll stand in well for Kings of War. Yeah. So if you're ever interested in checking them out, ReaperMiniatures.com is their website or something along those lines. And they have a huge catalog of miniatures going back decades. You should definitely check them out if you haven't before. But yeah, if you're just painting for fun, Reaper is the way to go. Their miniatures aren't super expensive. A lot of them are really nice. Some of their miniatures are a little and some of the early Bones ones especially. But for the most part, I really like Reaper. And their bones, the really big Bones miniatures are really nice. So stuff like fire giants and dragons and things like that. I've been wanting to get one of their dragons to use in my my elf army for. I can't remember if it was going to be for Kings of War or if it was for Warlord. But they had a dragon I really wanted. If you feel like sharing pictures, though, yeah, you do sacrifice a little bit of quality when you're paying, $3 for a 4 or 5 inch tall miniature. I'm not gonna say you get what you pay for, but you do sacrifice a little bit. The funny part is most of their models that exist as a Bones resin model, Bones PVC plastic, exists in metal as well, and I can't imagine some of those huge models in metal. They'd be so difficult to work with. Not that Bones is easy. I own a few miniatures in Bones, and they can be fiddly, especially if you prime them on accident. Whew. And then they'll get all gammy. Bones are the way to go, then. I've got a whole bunch of Reaper minis I should start practicing techniques on. At one point, I was trying to learn non-metallic metals, and I just kind of gave up on it. But I've got some Reaper minis. I should start practicing that again, because I've pretty well tapped out on my skills when it comes to true metallics. That's not true. I could always get better. There's no such thing as tapping out on skills. You can always get better. Ooh, excuse me. Grab a little more pale sand here, and we're gonna hit up the parchment bits. The highlight. Well, we're back to creepy carnival music. There we go. What do we got left paper-wise? Boom. Just a book. Okay. Paper is done. I'll have to do script on it and stuff, but for the most part, that went pretty quick. We need to do some stuff on this guy. He's got some demon fire on him. So we're just going to paint the whole of that ivory. And we're going to shade it in with some washes later. But since we have some ivory available now, might as well do it now before I have to, add more paint to my wet palette. I'm thinking Celia green shade, and then Drakenhof Nightshade, and then maybe a little bit of Nuln Oil, or possibly a dry brush with black on the tips of the flames to give it a nice demon fire look. So for contrast, this is what I did with the other guy who has the same sculpt. So the skin is kind of purpley, and I went with more of a yellowy red flame. Pretty pleased with it, but I want to mix it up and do a different style of fire for this one. Something more demonic and magical, you know, for a guy that has flames coming out of him. Seems appropriate. A little more warp fiery. Thank you, Sergio. I appreciate it. Anything better, I'm getting paid to paint these, so, you know, I try to... I only really have one standard I paint to, so I don't have levels. I just paint things to the best of my ability. I still need to do the basing. In fact, while I'm thinking of it, I need to pick out these skulls on this guy's base real quick. Since I have some bone white available, get some of that on there. I thought there was another one on here. There's just the 4 faces. Okay. So I think other than the eyes and the flames and the script, we're down to basing. Ooh, excuse me. Ooh, that was a deep one. It was a mighty burp. It came from below. Alright, I don't need any steel, so I'll put that away. I'm gonna need those still. Let's go ahead and get the copper parts taken care of, so I can get to the other ones. So dump some copper on there. Actually, I will need steel now that I think about it, because it goes over the copper. Whoops. Where is... I need a good metallic brush. I know you don't technically have to, but I use different brushes for metallics than I do for non-metallics. Force of habit. So do the copper on these and then hit them with some Vallejo verdigris. And then another highlight with some copper, and then some copper with some steel, and you get yourself a nice base effect. I don't think I'd ever use it on the model. The verdigris is real powerful. But let's get on bases. Nice big section done up in copper. Just post a link. Yeah, if you have a link to an Instagram or a Flickr or Imgur or something where you can upload the picture, just post a link in the chat, and I'd be happy to take a look at it. There we go. Some lovely copper tones. And then we're going to take some Delta Ceramcoat Gleam Metallic Pewter. Works well for as a replacement metallic for basing. I try when basing to use colors that are cheap. It doesn't always happen, but I found this stuff and it's been wonderful. It's kind of like a gunmetal color, and it works real well for large areas where the quality of the paint does not matter quite as much as the coverage. Like bases or buildings. Problem, of course, has been that since I moved out of California, I haven't been able to find Delta Ceramcoats anywhere else. And there's places I can get them online, but that doesn't help me if I'm in need of a paint right now. Fortunately, I haven't run out of any of the Delta coats, the Delta colors I use on a regular basis. I don't foresee running out anytime soon. There we go. All of our base coats are done on the terrain, on the bases. We base coated the bases. Huzzah. Alright, so what we're going to do now, I need to hit parts of these with some washes. So where is, oh, there it is, okay. So we're going to Agrax Earthshade over the grays and the kind of browns, so that we can highlight them later. I will just use this same brush. So the copper parts are not going to get this Agrax or shade, but everything else is. The copper parts and the metallic, the silvery parts are not going to get it. But everything else gets Agraxed. Gives us a nice dirty concrete. And it puts some shade into the surface of this kind of Mars red. It's Parasite Brown is the name of the color, but if you're curious what the gray is, it is Vallejo Basalt Gray. Makes for a nice base for concrete. I even use it for the sidewalk stuff on my Batman minis. I say sidewalk stuff because I don't know what that's supposed to be on their pre-textured bases. I assume it's supposed to be concrete. I think I'm finally getting to the point where I'm going to have to open my XL Agrax. This pot is running low. I'm gonna have to end the stream here soon because it smells and sounds like dinner is ready, or will be shortly. And I like to sit down and have dinner with my wife. I'm weird like that. It's a bizarre thing to want to do, but you know, I like doing it. That and I will have to make a run up to the FLGS at some point tonight to make a exchange. As I showed off at the beginning of the stream, a good friend of mine bought me a birthday gift, and shortly before I found out about it, I bought me a birthday gift. Well, my wife got it for me, but she let me pick it out. So, alright, so I gotta wait for that wash to dry on all of those before I can move on to the next steps. So this seems like a good stopping point for now. I might be streaming again later tonight or possibly tomorrow. Like I said, I've said before, I have a new schedule with work, and so my streaming schedule has been affected, so I don't get to stream as often. Sergio, if you want to send that link to me in some way, I'd be happy to check out your painting. I want to see that Bones Mini. I think Bones Minis look so cool, and I wish I had time to paint more of them because they just look so awesome. I just don't have much of a use for them at this point, so I don't get to paint them as often as I'd like. But I'd love to see yours. So if you want to send it my way, I'll be happy to check it out. And next time I'm streaming, I'll let you know if I have any constructive criticism or just heaps and heaps of praise, which is usually what I have for other painters, is just praise. All right, everyone have a wonderful night, and I will catch you next time. Yeah, definitely drop by again, Sergio, and I'll take a look at that while you're on stream so we can talk about it. Everyone have a wonderful night, and I will catch you next time I'm online.